Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of doing the ER model diagram for our missing person database. If Before starting, I just want to mention that we have the question. I've uploaded the question to the description of part 1. If you do not have the question, please do go and check that out. But let's continue. Let's continue with where we left off. So this is what our ER model diagram looks like so far. I've added a couple of notes, attributes. So let me erase these notes. These are not relevant to what we're doing. Definitely go and check out part 1 if you haven't already. Okay, so this is what it looks so far. I've added a couple of attributes to case, person. We still have to add attributes to evidence. Okay, so case, do we have our IDs? Okay, yeah, we do have our IDs. Status, yeah. Open date. Okay, so case kind of looks like that's kind of like all the information we would need per case. Let me log back in. Looks like it wants me to log back in. Okay, so yeah, let's get this to full screen. Okay, so let's continue. So finished case entity. Oh, I think what I'm doing, I'm moving left here. Let's go back. Okay, so it looks like case this. If we go back to the question, case. The attributes we have. We have all the attributes we need. Okay, person, name. Okay, so basic information about the person, name, blood type, gender, case ID, what type of person. What if there's some information like last seen, right? Location last seen, location address, location destiny, witness ID, right? I would also want to include witness ID. So, so one thing I've noticed is I want to do a composite. So by the way, this is a composite attribute. Name is a composite attribute. I'm thinking of having a composite attribute. And anytime you have a question, please put it down in the comment section below. So missing person, I want to create a composite attribute for it. Why? Because the date missing. If you look at the attribute like date missing, why would why would this be applicable for suspects? Why would it be applicable for witnesses, right? Missing date is usually for a missing person, right? So we're gonna do that. We're gonna add location last seen to attribute, and then location. I'm gonna when you're saying location's last seen, I want the location address. Then I also want the location like destination probably, and also the witness ID. Address, witness ID. Remember the witness ID, we put it as a foreign key, right? Foreign key in over here, right? We would also want this as a foreign key over here because remember we're not, uh, yeah, so this is going to be a foreign key that we're going to be using. Okay, so location last seen has these IDs because witness ID, why? Because we want to know who witnessed, who saw the person. Where did they see this person last? Okay, so the person, we also want contact information, contact info. So I'm just gonna call it contact info. But again, this is what we gotta ask ourselves: can I divide this further, right? If a person is entering the contact info from my database, they would want to see some sections, right? Like person address. No, not sorry, not person. We could put person address. I'm thinking, yeah, person address. Again, this is different from location address, but the location address is different. Person address, yeah, we would want to see that. We would also want to see person email and person phone. Person email and person phone. Okay, there we go. So we have these attributes. Um, and I think that is it, but we might need one more. Well, we might need. Remember, let's go if we go back to the question, right? Oh, it's going back again. I think when I'm moving my cursor. Okay, so we might need, let's look. Okay, so we do need age bracket. Okay, so age bracket, that's determined by the age, right? So we need the age also. But again, when I'm looking at a person's age, right? That is something that's It's kind of derived, right? Think about it. Why? If I'm entering the age, it's not going to be a single number, right? From 10 years from now, I'm going to be plus 10, right? So in that case, the age depends on birth date. Okay, we're gonna add this in our assumptions later. So remember, I'm gonna put a note that we gotta do assumptions. Assumptions. I'm gonna put this in our assumptions later. But remember, for doing a derived attribute, right? This is gonna be a derived attribute. Why? Because the age, it depends on another attribute, which is birth date, right? So we take the current date and we subtract it minus the birth date to get the age. Now to get the age bracket, right? This is gonna depend on the age derived attribute. Okay, so I'm gonna put make this a derived attribute. Okay, so those are our two derived attributes, and we'll see if we need more later. But yeah, and if we go back to the question, we also need I think the DNA, a person's DNA, right? Yeah, we would need a person's DNA. So we would need a person's DNA. I'm gonna make that over profile DNA, probably like a link, right? A link that leads to a person's DNA profile. Profile link. I'm just gonna call this as an attribute. And when we're talking about DNA, I also want to make sure we talk about. Let me move this so that. Let me move. Let me move this section with my pointer so that we can add the other attribute. Okay, cardinality. Okay, let me. Okay, there we go. So let's add the. Let's add. Oopsies. Want to make sure we erase that. Let's add the blood type. We want to know a person's the person's blood type also. Okay, so as you can see, these are quite a few attributes, but again, this is what the user would want to see, right? User would want to enter this, and then in this case, our users are law enforcement people, or people there who are first responders there, right? So those are attributes for a person. Next would be attributes for evidence. So evidence, what would be my primary key? We would have an evidence ID. This is our primary key. Okay, and again, remember this is a weak entity. Uh, we would need the facts about the evidence. Okay, facts about the evidence. The evidence. I'm going to say description. The description about the evidence. Okay, then we would need location about the search. Okay, so when there's a search that goes on, where was that search location? Where was that location? Right? Again, go back to the question and see. The question talks about this findings. What did they find in the search? Okay. Then what was the evidence? Uh, and we could also do DNA evidence. What was the talking about the DNA evidence? Was there any DNA evidence? Again, this is different from a person's DNA. Right? Was there any other DNA evidence? So we could say sample type. We could add collected who collected this by ID, then and then evidence profile link, right? We would also want to link evidence profile link. Then we also want to match. Remember what I said? We want to match something to the case, right? And it looks like our evidence ID we already have. We have a case ID. We also want to. Okay, I think I missed the evidence ID. So let's make sure I put evidence ID over here. And remember, that's gonna be a foreign key. I'm gonna circle that twice. And I'm gonna show a clearer diagram. This is a big messy diagram, but this is just to get the ideas through. Okay, so that's gonna be double oval, okay, underline, dashed underline to show it's a foreign key attribute, and that's gonna map our evidence ID from evidence. Okay, that's what this is what kind of it looks like. And then probably when we also want to like talk about the location of where the evidence was found, right? Where this evidence was found, probably like the first location address, right? The destination, right? And first address where that was found. A bunch of attributes, but these are all necessary if you go back at the question. We could also have like another composite attribute for blood evidence. Okay, blood evidence, blood type, we want a blood type, we would want the amount, probably we could also have an amount attribute, right? Amount, we would need an amount for our DNA, right? This is how much, maybe there's that, this is a measurable quantity, right? Amount, match to ID, if it matches, match to ID, and possible, what could be the possible ID? Okay, possible ID and DNA evidence. I'm thinking we would also want to match to ID. Match to ID. And we would also want possible ID. Okay, so those are a list of attributes. I know this looks a lot. I'm gonna share the more beautiful diagram than this. This is kind of messy. Now, but we would want, we're missing some more things. We're missing the cardinality and the min-max and the assumptions. Okay, let's see how much we could get through in this video, and then we'll do another video if we run out of time. So, talking about the case, right? The case, what I gotta ask myself, let's talk about the min-max first, right? So a case has to be contained in an evidence how many times? So a case, right? A case on its own, it can be contained in the evidence 0 times, right? But what a case can contain an evidence, so a case can have an evidence multiple times, right? If that makes sense, right? And then how many times does evidence have to be contained by a case? Remember, this is a weak entity. We said it has to be, when I'm entering evidence, it has to be at least contained, it has to be at least linked to a case at least once. And it could be contained by the case n number of times. Okay, now next question about cardinality. One evidence, right, has to be linked to a case at least how many times? One time, right? It could be, let me phrase that question one more time. One evidence, right? It could be linked to one evidence, right? With one evidence ID, it could be linked to how many cases? It could be linked to only one case. One case could be linked to how many evidences? It could be linked to n cases. And then we could draw the cardinality diagram if you've heard of that. But we'll do, let me know in the comment section below if you want to see what a cardinality diagram looks like, and I'll explain how this helps us to find the cardinality. Okay, so whenever you think of a box, think we would need that one. We would need that one. Okay, now a case could involve a person multiple times, right? So I'm gonna put an M, right? You can have a person multiple times. A person could be a suspect, could be a missing person, right? And a person could be involved in a case multiple times. One person, right? He's not constrained that he has to be involved in one case. He could be involved in multiple cases. Okay, so and then this is going to be 0 to n. So a case involves a person multiple times. A person could be involved in a case multiple times. So this is what so this is the min-max. So the difference between min-max and cardinality is that min-max tells how a case it involves the entity could be involved in person how many times. Cases could be, it has to be involved in cases how many times. One person, think of it like an ID. Okay, so if I have an ID of a person, if one single person can be involved in a case, how many times? Okay. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a question on that. Okay, Again, we'll continue with this. We're almost done with the diagram. We're going to add our assumptions. And if you like what we did so far, please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.